Ko waio, ko Te Āti Awa, ko Taranaki te iwi, ko Joshua Hitchcock, aho. For the past 15 years, I've worked in and for Māori businesses around Aotearoa. As a commentator on Māori issues, I have a deep interest in how Māori businesses operate and how Māori contribute to and are impacted by the New Zealand economy. This documentary takes a look into the Māori economy to see how it works, what drives it, and what makes it, and the businesses who operate within it, different from the wider New Zealand economy. So I welcome you to this insight into a fascinating and growing part of the Aotearoa New Zealand economy. In November 2019, just as the New Zealand economy was strong, so too was the Māori economy. But what is important in the context of what was about to happen was that there were structural inequalities between how Māori experienced and participated in the economy compared to Pākehā. Whatever way you looked at it, New Zealand's strong economic performance was not being shared equitably throughout society. Now, two statistics best highlight the divide. The first is unemployment. So while the national unemployment rate was sitting around 4%, for Māori this climbed to 8.4%. And while the total asset base held by Māori had increased to 69 billion in 2018, the contribution of the Māori economy to GDP has been estimated as low as 6.5%. The story of Māori engagement in the New Zealand economy is complex on so many levels. The Māori asset base is growing, Māori enterprise is growing, yet structural inequalities persist.
The calculation of the Māori economy is based on its asset value. We've got probably 80% of Māori businesses are the small employer businesses. And only about 20% are what we'd call the medium to large enterprise. So when we look at the Māori economy, there are a number of different definitions of what a Māori business is. Everything from an iwi trust or an organisation right through to a Māori-owned company, a Māori employer, a company using Māori product like a fish quota, seafood quota.
Traditionally they've been fishing, farming, forestry, the three Fs, no surprises there. Land-based, whenua-based, rohi-based, but now the food, film and fashion.
Māori are active participants in all sectors and across the entire value chain. Because for Māori it is not only about the money, it is about the people and how we as a people can thrive on our whenua. It is about people, it is about planet, and then it is about profit.
The birth of Wakatū came out of family owner agitation, unrest with the Crown's administration of our lands in the 60s and 70s. Our first investment decisions came in the 80s. We invested in commercial property, premium lands for horticulture, and we began to buy some of them back.
Wakatū is made up of our whenua, that's our property business, a mix of commercial and residential properties, and that part of our business also looks after our perpetual leases. And then there's Kono, which is our export food and beverage business. The marine sector for us is really exciting. We have the third largest mussel business in New Zealand. We have a number of developments happening in the marine space, so we're constantly looking at new opportunity. There's a lot of risk to manage in those businesses, but also a huge amount of opportunity. Currently, in terms of our asset base, is approximately $350 million, so that doesn't necessarily reflect the full value of the asset base. That's our lobster quota in particular, which is valued in a certain way. Right at the heart of Wakatū is what we call manaaki. So it's about growing people's capability, the development of our whānau, our scholarship and succession programs and so on. So looking after all of our employees across the group. It's close to 500 people at peak. So it has an external facing role, and it also has an internal facing role, so our people and culture.
To get better outcomes for the communities that live and love this place. And we're making really good progress because it requires people to own the strategy, to be motivated. Most importantly, I want business to financially support a long-term strategy. Wakatū does it. We're a family here.
The success of Wakatū comes from a long-term strategy built on making the best use of the resources within their rohe. Further north, a group of Māori land trusts have taken a similar approach, this time in the agriculture sector.
probably around 1984, we decided to separate ourselves from the administration under the Māori Land Development Scheme and figure that we could probably run the farms and operate them better ourselves.
Our team is at the forefront of everything that happens here. The people factor is big with our business. It's really about how we can get our team up and cranking and working more effectively together, and part of that really is around communication.
In terms of scale, we've got 10,600 cows that we own, plus another 900 on our farm that's Shermouth, 4,000 hectares of dairy, 1,500 hectares of dairy support.
The forestry component is about 6,000 hectares. You're looking at a turnover in excess of 30 to 35 mil as a revenue line.
So Wairapa supplied our milk to a dairy company called Miraka.
So the owners of Miraka are Hauhungaroa Partnership, Waipapa 9, Tauhara Moana, Pauakani Trust, Wairarapa Moana Incorporation and Tu Aropaki Trust. And we're also fortunate enough to have an international partner, that's Vinamilk. And Vinamilk is a leading producer of dairy products in Vietnam. Miraka as a company is supplied by, I think it's 107 farms. It represents something like 70,000 cows. The great thing about being a small company and having a relatively small milk supply base is you can build relationships with the farmers. And so right from the start and the establishment of the company, it was founded on some fairly fundamental and important Māori values. One of those values is essentially whanaungatanga or connection.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the winner of the inaugural He Kai Aku Ringa Award for Māori Excellence in Export, Miraka.
So Miraka, they won the first International Business Award for Māori business 5 years ago. An outstanding example of creating a supply chain to move their product from the field into the international marketplace, run by Māori, for Māori, tikanga Māori, with a top quality product. They're a great example of the value over the volume.
Ngāi Tahu are an interesting case study. They were one of the first iwi to settle in 1996 for $170 million, and over the past 25 years have grown the value of their asset base to close to $2 billion through a series of strategic investments into property, tourism and agriculture.
Ngāi Tahu Group Holdings, they're separate entities owned by Ngāi Tahu: tourism, property, seafoods, farming, forestry. Ngāi Tahu Group Holdings is essentially a commercial entity with a cultural purpose.
Ngāi Tahu, classic large incorporation examples of originally it was give a man a hammer and everything's a nail, you know, we're going to build, we're going to be property, but increasingly you're seeing them actively diversify their portfolio into global portfolios.
There are very entrepreneurial iwi tribal members and groups that have expanded into areas and become internationally recognised for what they do.
Ngāi Tahu have made a series of successful investments over the past 25 years into commercial assets and through that into their people. The Runanga has invested over $600 million into tribal developments and settlement. Now, around the same time as the Ngāi Tahu settlement was taking place, negotiations were also concluding on what would become known as the Sea Lords Treaty Settlement. Sea Lords was a game changer. For the first time in over 100 years, Māori would once again control a large proportion of fishing activities around Aotearoa, New Zealand. And every iwi throughout the motu would benefit from it. But it is a controversial settlement in terms of the quantum, the allocation of that amongst iwi, and for the structural challenges that it has imposed on iwi organisations.
So the Sea Lord settlement's complex. First of all, it comes back to the High Court decision which found that Māori had strong customary interests and that the Crown had taken away their rights by introducing the quota management system. It was determined that 10% of the fisheries quota should be distributed to iwi, and also a shareholding, 50% of Sea Lords, would go into Māori collective ownership. The formula was developed based on the population of an iwi and the length of their coastline to arrive at who got what resource where or who got what quota where. It created quite a difficult situation for Māori to have to deal with, the fragmentation of this quota. And then what we see today is all the business models and approaches Māori are taking are all built off that fragmentation to try and work together in the best way possible to manage this complex arrangement. But they're also shareholders in the larger company, Moana New Zealand, which sits underneath Te Āti Moana. So this is where all of the different iwi have a shareholding or an ownership in the company. So in this case, Moana New Zealand and Sealords. Since settlement, Māori have pretty much doubled the size of their ownership share of the Māori marine economy. So in terms of Māori's participation in the marine sector, I think they're the leaders. And I think it is one that Māori have significant ownership, control and self-determination over.
Iwi and landing corporations. These are large entities that are starting to become not just more visible at the regional or national level, but are becoming more integral to a region and New Zealand as a whole. For example, Whakatū is at the heart of a booming food and wine production industry in and around Nelson. The influence of Ngāi Tahu on the rebuild of Ōtautahi post-earthquake is visible for all to see. Our communities, whakapapa, understanding those relationships both locally and across the country is an important part of the Māori business ecosystem.